Okay, welcome to round 2. We won the die roll again. We're going to play first, and seeing is pretty good. Has draw a cantrip, a removal spell, and a threat with card advantage attached. Definitely keeping. Depending on my opponents, now I'm going first. Alright, I'm just going to play Swiftwater Cliffs. That'll let me preordain and Lightning Bolt next turn, or do either while getting another tapped land into play. It does kind of reveal our, reveal our deck, because not many other decks play Swiftwater Cliffs. We drew a counterspell. Opponent played Swiftwater Cliffs as well. I don't really want to counter anything. We're probably playing the mirror, so I'm just gonna scry. Seagate Oracle is fine. I played this person, I think, yesterday on stream. They might be on Tron. Like the Teachings Tron variants. In which case Spoilerworks is better. I already have a Lightning Bolt, so we're just gonna grab that. I'll be able to play Fairy Miscreant and then bounce the island and hold up Counterspell. So that'll be good. Let's see what they're playing. Prophetic Prism? Yeah, that suggests Tron. And they had a Guildgate, which is completely fine for us because they're just not hitting their Tron pieces. I feel like it's weird that they run the full, 4 Swiftwater Cliffs and then some number of Guildgates, though, if they're on Tron. Maybe they're on some sort of Grixis Kuldotha variant? I don't know. Nope, that's a Tron piece. That's fine. I basically care about them interacting with my board and not much else. Oh, that's perfect. Hello, Ninja of the Deep Hours. Going to attack. Going to ninjutsu on the Seagate Oracle because it has more of a relevant ability than Fairy Miscreant. We don't have another Fairy Miscreant, so. Alright, and now I want to protect the ninja, but at the same time, if they can force the removal spell, I just want to jam this Oracle. But I think I'm gonna protect the ninja. I can play the Oracle next turn or a Muldrifter. Having ninja continue to connect is just an absurd amount of value. Also, protecting ninja as opposed to playing Oracle is like 1 point of damage more a turn. Opponent didn't draw land, discarded a Mnemonic Wall. So yeah, they're like Teachings Tron. The first thing I'm gonna do is attack. This card that I get from the draw trigger will inform the rest of my decisions. I might end up having to discard this turn too because I'm drawing up to 9 cards. Yeah, so now we can afford to Seagate Oracle here. If I hit a Dispel, then... Okay. That counterspell is fine. Again, I care more about protecting the ninja than anything else. And we didn't have to discard. Our opponent won't have to discard next turn if they miss their land drop again, though. But they hit it, so that's fine. If they try to, Mnemonic Wall or something, I will snap counter that. but they probably won't because they discarded one and the deck doesn't usually run a tremendous number. No, don't want to Flame Slash. Whoops. Alright, so I'm going to attack, and then I can play Mulldrifter with Counterspell backup. But I just want to see what we draw off of this trigger. Deprive is excellent. So I'm going to cast Mulldrifter with Counterspell backup, and I will force it through. If they try to counter it, I'm fine with getting into a fight over it because it represents a tremendous amount of value. They're responding with Pulse of Murasa, which might be bait. I will let that resolve. Okay. Mulldrifter resolved, which is a big problem for my opponent. The Fairy Miscreant will be nice next turn. Gonna discard Island and one more Flame Slash. Bolt can go to the face, Flame Slash can't. I'm just gonna be Snap countering this, like immediately countering this Mnemonic Wall anyway if my opponent plays it. So there's no reason to Flame Slash it. Also, with the way my clock is looking currently, I'm going to need the Lightning Bolt to shorten it a turn. For 5 mana, I'm going to counterspell that. You always use your counterspell over Deprive because they have the exact same text, except Deprive sets you back a mana. So obviously using it as late as possible is better. It's best. And now I can play Mulldrifter and leave up Deprive, but again, I'm just gonna attack first and see what I draw. Yes. Okay, another ninja is good. So here, because of this Lightning Bolt, Mulldrifter doesn't really change my clock. So I'm actually going to evoke it here in the hopes that I can draw into a counterspell and have 2 counterspells available next turn. I did not, but we could Fairy Miscreant now. Draw yet another card, and that's fine. I will discard a tapped land. So now I can end of turn bolt, deprive something, untap, and attack for lethal. Oh no, not lethal, but 2 turn clock. Sorry, I'm my math was off. If we draw another lightning bolt, then it'll be lethal. Because 7 damage next turn will take our opponent to 6, and then bolt is 6. But otherwise, we'll have to connect for 2 more turns, and it's a little worrisome when our opponent has Tron. We can definitely do it. You don't really have a way to get a bunch of creatures off the table at once. But I'm still not tremendously optimistic if they manage to force something through. That Mnemonic Wall is definitely getting countered. Well, no. So they're probably targeting Pulse of Murasa. Yeah, because it means our ninja can't connect. So I want to try to counter the actual wall. I will return a Swiftwater Cliffs just so I have more options next turn on which land to play. The 1 life is hardly ever going to be relevant, but there's a chance it might be at like a 100th%. You know, I'll take an additional 100th% when it's free any day. Okay. They used a prohibit, so Mnemonic Wall probably returns Pulse of Murasa, and Pulse of Murasa. They probably cast Pulse of Murasa on their other wall this turn to avoid a Dispel or something, and again to make sure they gain life. Ooh. Which is not great because it forces us to draw another land next, or another counter spell to break up this loop. If we are able to kill the mnemonic wall, which we can by just attacking, connecting, and then bolting the wall. Okay, they're not playing the pulse, which means they might have something else to play next turn, or to play this turn, or they're just worried about a dispel that we don't have. It could be either. Teachings would be a perfect curve here. They have exactly 4 mana, so. They're flickering tower and wall to return probably flicker. And then those prisms we'll let them flicker again if they need to. Which is a pain. They were able to, yeah, they gained a mana from that hole. Oh no, they didn't gain a mana. They just like filtered blue into colorless. Right, because they tapped 3 for tower and 1 for cliffs, and then they only blinked the tower, so they spent 3, reset 3, and then they have the 1 floating. They didn't actually gain a mana off of that whole exchange. So I'm not entirely sure why they did it. It just tells me that they have Ghostly Flicker in hand. Yeah, I don't understand unless they wanted to return something else or blink the Prophetic Prism or something and they misclicked. But otherwise, the line just doesn't make any sense. And now they only have 3 mana for their turn instead of 4, which may or may not be relevant. But we know 2 cards in their hand. We know Ghostly Flicker and Pulse of Murasa. I think I'm going to attack. They're going to block the ninja, and then I'm going to ninjutsu the Fairy Miscreant. See what happens. But I want to preordain first. Counterspell is the highest priority. Like, okay, send me a message. Didn't work? No, of course it didn't work. Bolt is not great. Dispel is sweet. We get the line pretty obviously didn't work. Because they just, that's not. Anyway. Opponent takes 6. I get to draw a card. I get to Fairy Miscreant and draw a card. I'm not going to kill the Mnemonic Wall. Well, not going to try, because they can just flicker it plus Prophetic Prism. And I can dispel that, but then that leaves my shields down for the Pulse of Murasa next turn. But if I draw another counterspell or something, then that's fine. Alright, Preordain's fine. Another dispel is pretty great. I want to hold up the bolt to kill my opponent out of nowhere. We've drawn many more cards than our opponent has this game. It's like a 14 card difference. If they try to... Okay, that's getting dispelled right away. I don't need my opponent gaining 6 again and returning another Mnemonic Wall that I actually can't counter right now. So actually that meant I don't have to discard. which is not particularly relevant. This island is doing nothing. Alright, they have more mana. They just have to fight through a Dispel here, which is not that much to fight through. Just waiting for them to act. So they're ghostly flickering the tower and the wall. That's fine. If they get back, they can try to get back Pulse, at which point I will counter it once they cast it. But there's no point in countering the Ghostly Flicker because it's like essentially the same thing. Except it gives them more options. Like if I counter the Flicker versus countering the Pulse. I'm going to dispel that. Hopefully they don't have anything. They don't have anything. Excellent. Unless they have another Ghostly Flicker Mnemonic Wall in hand. Just still waiting for the opponent. What is this? Rolling Thunder. Killing all of my creatures. Except for one of the ninjas. I guess I have to let that resolve. Don't have any way to interact with it. That was really, really good. Nice job, opponent. Alright, Seagate Oracle. Guess I hit the Swiftwater Cliffs. Seagate Oracle. Counterspell is great because my opponent only has one card in hand. Now I am going to bolt the Mnemonic Wall so that I have the ability to connect next turn with something other than two Seagate Oracles. They have two cards. If one of them is a land... Okay. I think I have to counter this and hope that their other card is nothing. Because if I don't counter this, then they have just a very large amount of time. What is this? Okay. Well... I guess we're racing. I'm faster, but I don't have anything in my hand, so... I'll just sacrifice two of these lands I'm flooded with. This is like awful draws from both my opponent and I. And my draw wasn't awful, but I'm way flooded out now. Miscreant's pretty good. I'm going to attack first. We'll draw a card. I'll play Miscreant and another Cliffs, and then sacrifice two more islands, I guess. Yeah, my opponent has to attack, which is really awkward for them. Yeah, I'll take the damage. Another Rolling Thunder would kill me anyway, so there's no real point to blocking. Okay, Impulse. could find something to buy my opponent's time. To buy my opponent some time, but I'm not entirely sure. What did they find? Prophetic Prism? Yeah. Draws them another card, so they found a rebuy. And they didn't get anything. Okay, so they conceded. And now I just need to figure out what to bring in. Echoing Rune isn't great because their only artifacts are prisms. Relic is actually fine because they have the Mnemonic Wall loop and they might have Chainer's Edicts, although they might bring them out against me. Like Trickery is not great. Stormbound Geist is fine because they're probably a Chainer's Edict deck and Geist is hard to really get rid of efficiently. Then all the blasts are fine. Pyroblasts or Snap includes, as well as I think the Relic. I'm a little hesitant on the Hydroblasts and the Stormbound Geists. Just because Geist is pretty slow, and our opponent is more restricted by mana than they are by cards. In many cases. Dispel is great because my opponent's a Teachings deck. Nullify is a little sketchy. But I probably just want all the counter spells. Lightning Bolt is like the worst card. So we're definitely bringing these 5 in. Lightning Bolt is really bad because it doesn't kill Mnemonic Wall. But it can go to the face. So that's a plus over Flame Slash. And if Mnemonic Wall resolves anyway, I'm a little behind. But as we saw that game, I have other ways of getting ahead enough that Mnemonic Wall's card advantage is beatable. Let's see what else. So Lightning Bolt can go to the face, but it doesn't kill anything else. I don't think I want it over Flame Slash. And Flame Slash is probably the next worst card. So the question is, do I want any of these Hydroblasts or any Stormbound Geists over Flame Slashes? And I think Hydroblast is a little better than Flame Slash. I don't really want the Geists. So I think this is a fine configuration. We'll see how it does. If I see more of my opponent's deck, I might make some changes, but as it is, the 7 blasts are, I suspect, the way to go. And just cut all my burn spells. This hand is full of counter spells, but not much else. I feel like I really need pressure in this matchup. I'm going to mulligan. This hand is a lot better because it has pressure and counter spells. Spellstar Sprite is a bit awkward given my current mana development, and I need more lands, so... Or like a solid source of card advantage, so I'm gonna pass on the second one. Also, I know my opponent has Electrickery after sideboard. Another Fairy Miscreant is really good. Potentially really good, anyway. Even if my opponent like spends a card to kill the first one, the second one is still going to help out with the Spellstar Spray. Oh, Magma Spray. Haven't seen that one. It's interesting. Good thing I didn't bring in the what is it? Good thing I didn't bring in the Stormbound Geist. That would have been a pain. Spray would have completely demolished it. Are you going to try to counter this? Yeah, they condescended. That's nothing I can do about it. So they get to scry. I'll just play another Miscreant. They're not going to be able to play... they're not going to be able to play a Mnemonic Wall next turn. So I'm okay. I'll just jam this other Miscreant, get some pressure into play, get a fairy into play, and pass the turn. Okay. We drew an island, which is great. It means we can cast any of our 2-mana counterspells and the Hydroblast, which is great if our opponent has something like a Pyroblast. Okay, our opponent has a tapped land. Another Spellstutter Sprite is actually pretty great. Not drawing a land is rough, though. They just keep gaining life, all sorts of stuff. Alright, well, Boilerworks isn't bad. It's not fantastic, but it's okay. I'll return this island because the 1 mana from Cliffs doesn't matter as much as having the untapped mana next turn. Boilerworks was one of the best lands we could have drawn. As opponent casting Teachings, yeah, I think I have to let that resolve. If opponent gets Electrickery, that would be kind of difficult here. But let's see what they grab. They grabbed an actual counterspell, which is not bad because Spellstutter Sprite can tag that. Oh, and I drew a Dispel, which is even better. Alright, well, I'm going to continue pecking away. I have to trust that I'll draw another business spell and not rely on the Spellstutter Sprite to get everything done. So my opponent's flashing back Teachings, and I think I want to counter this. The reason being that I can counter whatever they get with it unless they get another Teachings. Because I'm not applying a whole lot of pressure to them, I think that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to go find another Teachings, and that's other card advantage. But if I counter this now, they won't be able to do that. Nope. I'm just going to use my Dispel on it, because that's the narrowest counterspell I have. Opponent sent me a message. Not holding Force of Will in case that's what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking that. But I wasn't trying to figure out whether I should play around it. I was just explaining my thoughts to you guys and stuff. Alright, so Sprite, Pyroblast. They're holding a counterspell, which is a pain. So I think I let this resolve, unfortunately. I don't want to get into a protracted counter war, because I will definitely lose. And I don't really care about tapping my opponent down next turn. Alright, that extra mana is going to be really helpful. I can imagine how bad this matchup would be if I were playing something like Mana Leak. It would be a real pain. Alright, Preordain is an excellent card. I'm playing it before combat in case I find a ninja. Pyroblast is great. I already have 2 counterspells, so we're just going to top both of these and draw the Pyroblast. and then get in for one. I have a really slow clock, but I also have the means to counter pretty much everything my opponent plays. And my next counterspell will double my clock. So the situation isn't significantly favorable for me, but I would say I'm marginally ahead. If they find another mystical teachings, that could change. Muldrifter evoked. That's going to get pyroblasted, because card advantage actually really matters right now, given that I have I have exactly as many counterspells as my opponent has cards, minus maybe one. Also, the game is growing quite long, and my opponent has a significantly less time than I do. So, alright, we're going to counter the counterspell. They only have 2 mana left. If they respond with an Electrolyze, I will happily Hydroblast it. That's probably the reason they... Alright, they're just trying to Pyroblast my Spellstarter Sprite in play. I'm going to Hydroblast that. Whoops. Alright, so we get to counter their thing, counter their thing, counter their thing. And our clock is faster now. Another Preordain is great. If I find a ninja, I will happily ninja my Spellstarter Sprite. Oh, okay. I want both of these. I'm going to draw the Pyroblast first, in case the third card down is something that I also want. Because otherwise I would have to bottom something good with the Seagate Oracle. And that could cost me in the long run, because this is, right, they used their counterspell. This is a bit of a, well, it's a very, very long game. So, just having as much overall card quality is more important than having, like, a really fast clock or card quality at certain individual points in the game. Right. Seagate Oracle, and I have exactly as many counterspells as they have cards in hand, which is a fantastic place to be when you're ahead on board. What are they playing? Are they trying to condescend? Yes. Alright, that's getting Pyroblasted. For sure. It's a great Pyroblast target, because they spent way more mana on it than I did on my Pyroblast. I guess I have to take a Muldrifter. So now if they have a counterspell in hand, they can force through, or 2 business cards and enough mana, they can force through a lot, but they're just passing turn, which doesn't end well for them, because I get to just attack in and then probably just evoke this. I think I want to keep multiple counterspells up. We're getting to that point in the game as far as mana efficiency is concerned. Alright, drawing that Hydroblast was potentially clutch if my opponent has a third Pyroblast or removal spells. There's the Urza's Tower. And again, if this game goes too much longer and my opponent manages to win, then there's a good chance we can time them out on game 3, which isn't how I would like to win a game, but I'll still take it over a loss. Like, they know the circumstances going into the game. They're responsible for managing their clock, so it's time is definitely a resource. Still waiting for... for them to make a decision. Which I guess is, you know, that's fine. More time off their clock, I guess. Opponent plays Evenkar's Justice without buyback. Yeah, I'll counter that. Dispel, I will let resolve and then counter their Justice. Attempt to counter their Justice again. I don't know. It leaves me open to like a mnemonic wall or something. I don't think tapping completely out is a good approach. My clock is slowed way down, but if my opponent is able to get any value, then all this card advantage I've accumulated might be really thrown into jeopardy. If they're able to start getting like little bits of value on me. The relic is great though. Because it lets me just flat out counter the mnemonic wall trigger and cycle it. So I'm going to just attack. Keep getting beats in. I'm really only going to activate this relic when my opponent going to crack it to exile everything when my opponent forces me to. Otherwise, I'll just keep using it to chip away at their graveyard and attack. The longer I can wait, the better it is. Not because I'm under the illusion of being able to get their whole graveyard, but because when I crack it, anything played after that suddenly becomes fair game in terms of my opponent's ability to recur it. I will... Dispel is more valuable than Hydroblast, so I'm going to Hydroblast that. Because I'm not too concerned with exactly how fast my clock is. I definitely need some sort of clock. Because that if I don't have a clock at any point, that opens me up to a lot of very, very precarious lines if I get outdrawn and it results in me losing the game. Something kind of interesting I've just noticed this, is that this island and this Swiftwater Cliffs have very similar art. Like the water, the canyon kind of angles up and to the right and then takes a left. There's a little bit piece of cliff jutting out on each of them. You know, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Did the same artist do them? Young Park and no. All right. Impulse can resolve because I can just counter what it finds, unless it finds a Teachings. But if there's a chance it just finds all lands or something. Or the only spell they grab is Electrolyze, which doesn't do much against Oracle. Either way, I just want to make them tap as much mana as possible. Changer's Edict is a good one. Don't think I can afford to fight a counter war over that. If I draw another creature, it will let me crack this relic, though, to stop my opponent from flashing back the Edict. So now we're not in the best spot, but we do have the relic in play, so we actually kind of have 4 cards in hand instead of just 3. And our new plan is to care less about our clock and just try to time our opponent out. We're still going to, you know, if we draw threats, we're still going to play them and try to apply pressure and, you know, play a reasonable game of Magic. But I think hang on. I'm just going to counter this with Relic. Yeah, it's better. I don't want to spend a counter spell on something that I can stop with Relic. So like I said, I'm still going to make best efforts to win the game in a legitimate, like a normal fashion through damage and everything. But if I have to time my opponent out, I will take that route to victory. Drawing 2 lands in a row was not the best. Prism's fine because it can draw them a land, which is like a non-spell, so it only has a small-ish percentage of doing anything. Ninja of the Deep Hours is a solid draw. My opponent doesn't have a Chainer's Edict anymore. So, yeah. That I will dispel. Opponent's going to fight over it. Well, I'll fight over it too. Sure. This Ninja of the Deep Hours is very valuable because of its ability to get me recurring card advantage. And damage. My opponent's only 3 hits from dying. 4 if they find another land that gains them a life. This Tron deck looks really sweet, though. I might consider playing it in on stream or in a league, like in another video. Tron pieces are a little expensive for lands, but they're not too bad. What is my opponent playing? Are they trying? They're trying to Rolling Thunder me out. X equals 14. That is definitely getting countered. I'm gonna attack first, and then let the card I draw inform my decision with Seagate Oracle. Alright, so we drew Ninja. That's a pretty obvious choice. It's also an obvious choice. I'm gonna hardcast. No. I'm gonna evoke it. I have lethal on board next turn. If I draw 2 counterspells, then I want to cast them. Only drew 1, but that's fine. I have a counterspell. Alright, opponent just concedes. They just don't have anything. So we got there. Thanks for watching, guys. And stay tuned for match number 3.